on September 9th, 2019, Owen Sound City Council. We did not have a closed session tonight, so we are starting right now. First of all, at number 4, I'm going to call for additional business. If there's anyone looking left, Councillor Merton.
Through your worship, I'd like to bring up a question for council regarding budget process.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else down there? Seeing none, looking the other way, Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Worship. I have some comments to make on the mayor's chair tonight.
And anyone else? No? Okay, and I'll have my usual couple of things that I've represented council and the city on the last couple of weeks. So number 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. I'm seeing none. Number 6, confirmation of council minutes.
Your Worship, members of council, I move that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on August 26, 2019 as printed be adopted, and that's seconded by Councillor Koepke.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. We'll keep going there at number 7.
Your Worship, members of council, I move that City Council now move into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business. And again, that's seconded by Councillor Koepke.
So all in favor? Carried. So we're now in Committee of the Whole. Thank you. So we're down to number 8 already, and at 8A we have a public meeting with regard to food and beverage and cannabis production facilities. So first of all, I declare that the public meeting is open. Announcement to read: every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representations in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available on the city's website and at the Planning Division, City Hall, during the regular business hours. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the City of Owen Sound to the local planning tribunal, appeal tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Owen Sound before the zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Owen Sound before the zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there is reasonable grounds to do so. Go ahead.
Through your worship, notice of this public meeting was circulated to the prescribed bodies, posted on the city's website, and published in the Sun Times on August 16th. The comments that have been received were included in the agenda package. For those of you who missed signing the sign-in sheet on your way in, it is located on the table just inside the door. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to myself, the City Clerk. And if you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the City of Owen Sound, care of the City Clerk.
Great, thank you. So I believe next we're going to hear from Ms. Can or Ms. Coulter, which? Ms. Can, welcome.
Thank you very much, and good evening, members of council, members of the public, and staff. We are on. So today I'm here to host a public meeting with council for consideration of food and beverage and cannabis production facilities under zoning bylaw amendment number 25. So by way of a bit of background here, We do have, this is a city-initiated housekeeping amendment. The amendment is citywide. It impacts multiple zones and is not considered property or zone-specific. The amendment responds to changes, a number of changes to federal regulations respecting cannabis production that came into force in effect October 2018. The amendment also proposes to update the list of prohibited uses in the city zoning bylaw to allow for food processing plants. The purpose of the city-initiated application proposes to amend the zoning bylaw to permit food and beverage production facilities in one or more of the industrial zones and commercial zone categories as a primary or accessory use as appropriate. Cannabis production facilities are proposed in one or more of the industrial zone categories to be added as a permitted use. So the effect of the proposed amendment is proposing to alter Section 4, being definitions, Section 5 being general provisions, Section 7 commercial zones, Section 8 industrial zones of the city's zoning bylaw. These alterations propose to consider the addition or amendment of defined terms, including food and beverage production facilities, cannabis production facilities, sensitive land uses, outdoor storage, industrial accessory uses. So seeing some changes there to the defined terms. We are proposing to remove in whole or in part a food processing plant as a prohibited use in all zones. The general provision, Section 5 of the bylaw, is proposed to include all necessary general requirements regulating the uses as specified. Further, the effect is that a food and beverage production facility be included among the uses permitted in one or more of the commercial industrial zones. And as noted previously in the purpose, that a cannabis production facility be included among the uses permitted in one or more of the industrial zone categories. We are also proposing, as far as the effect goes, the implementation of appropriate separation distances from the proposed uses and surrounding sensitive land uses, being, for example, residential, institutional, open space type uses. The idea of the separation distances is key in this proposal, and you'll see it sort of recurring throughout this presentation. And finally, the effect proposes to clarify the regulations pertaining to industrial accessory uses. So just some general matters that we are attempting to address in the proposed amendment. I'm just going to catch myself up in my notes here. So as far as the sensitive land use definition, we are proposing to define that as a use or as a defined term, and it's proposed to address or include rather residential, institutional, and open space zones at this point. And furthermore, as noted, we've also proposed establishment of required setbacks from these sensitive land uses. So as a bit of an illustration here, I've done up a bit of a pictogram here to illustrate what the separation distances are designed to achieve. So the buffer facility around number 2 here, the item surrounded in green, so that's a representation of an industrial use or industrial facility for, in this example, could be cannabis or food production, because the separation distances are proposed to pertain to either one or both. So the green buffer surrounding that facility number 2 is free of sensitive land uses. So as of right, based on the proposed draft, facility number 2 would conceivably be permitted based on the buffer not hitting anything that we've deemed to be sensitive land use. So number 2, the facility outlined in red, is encumbered by a dwelling, the yellow house, and also a public park. So both of these are proposed to be sensitive land uses. So this means that the facility, number 1 would not meet the proposed minimum requirements for those buffer setbacks as proposed. And so you may be asking, so the proposed amendment may not encompass all potential users or may not be permissive for all properties, and that is accurate. The setback buffers are not designed to mean that a food production facility or cannabis production facility would not be permitted on every property as of right. It means that it would have to meet certain criteria, including these setback requirements, to be permitted as of right. And so, if industrial facility number 1 wished to continue with their work as a cannabis production facility or a food production facility and found themselves to be encumbered by their setback requirement from a sensitive land use, they may have the opportunity then to amend the zoning bylaw for that site-specific use, and that application to the city would have to be accompanied by appropriate supporting documentation to essentially prove that there's proper noise, odor, other attenuation measures put in place, including landscaping, et cetera, that would mean that that facility would not negatively impact that sensitive land use. So that's our tutorial for the day on your setbacks. So for a cannabis production facility specifically, we have defined the use. The proposal really is largely similar to our existing regulations for medical marijuana production facilities, and those have been in place for several years, but as the title indicates, medical marijuana production facilities currently only permit just that, the medical variety of cannabis production. So our proposed draft does not permit retail, outdoor display, or outdoor storage of any raw inputs or storage of those goods. So here we have a bit of an illustration for you of where a cannabis production facility may be permitted in the city as of right, subject to those regulations and provisions, including those setback regulations. This is essentially a rough illustration of where we see the M1 and M2 zone provisions, so the general and heavy industrial zone categories. Again, this is purely illustrative to show where we might see a facility be proposed in the city. So again, as further illustration, the light green is showing the 70-meter buffer setback. So this means that if a dwelling, park, or other type of sensitive land use is situated within that shaded area, that may mean that there is additional due diligence, or it may mean that a facility may not meet their setback. So keeping in mind that a setback, a 70-meter buffer, a 150-meter buffer, a 300-meter buffer does pertain to the facility itself, not the property. So this is sort of a broader look at that setback. It's not as specific as it would be for a site-specific look at that setback. So again, an illustration of the 150-meter buffer. So if you see one of those sensitive land uses lying within that buffer area, it may mean that it's too close, potentially too close to a proposed facility to be permitted as of right in the proposed draft bylaw. And then one stage further, we have the 300-meter buffer. Again, encroaches further out of the M1 and M2 zone area into the surrounding residential or commercial, other type of areas surrounding the lands. So for food and beverage production, again, we see the use being defined in the bylaw. The proposal removes food processing plants from the list of uses prohibited in the city's zoning bylaw. So food processing plant has been a prohibited use for some time in the bylaw. And so we're looking to remove that to facilitate some additional uses being permitted as of right in the city. So taking comfort in the fact that the bylaw continues to prohibit an abattoir and other specific animal product processing operations on all lands within the city. So permitting food processing plants does not propose to allow for those things as well. Those are continuing to be proposed to be prohibited on all lands. So the proposal permits or requests to permit food processing for human consumption only, so no processing for dog food, for example. That would be a limitation of the proposal as per the definition. Food and beverage production in the downtown and harborfront areas are being considered with a required commercial component. So I will go into that a little bit further here. So again, we see an illustration of areas where limited food and beverage production would be proposed. So here we're getting into lands that are zoned C1 core commercial, C2 arterial commercial being the pink, and then the blues indicating a more waterfront commercial, mixed commercial and industrial areas. So taking care to ensure we have compatible land uses and land uses that are geared to the touring or traveling public. We want to ensure that we don't see any industrial uses that aren't available to the public for shopping or eating or drinking or doing other types of enjoying of the downtown and harborfront as we all envision. So here again, we just see our illustration of our buffers growing, where we would have a 70-meter buffer. If a house or other type of dwelling is lying within those areas, it may encumber the ability of a food or beverage processing plant to be located in those areas. So again, we have an illustration of the M1 and M2 where a food and beverage processing facility would be permitted as of right under the bylaw, under the proposed bylaw, subject to regulations, including those setbacks. So with that, I'll conclude, and I'm happy to answer any questions that
Councillor Kepke.
Just through you, Your Worship, to the planner, question on the dog food production, for instance. If we were ever so fortunate to have one of those plants come to our area, there is a spot that they could be put, or not?
No, so excuse me, sorry. So those types of uses would remain in the list of prohibited uses. So by virtue of not being included in the list, or rather in the definition of food and beverage processing plant, a dog food processing plant, for example, would continue to be prohibited on all lands.
Further?
Well, I just don't understand why we would prohibit something like that if we were able to get something like that.
Go to Ms. Coulter to help you out there.
Through your worship, I wonder if council's interested in some of those types of uses that wouldn't be for human consumption. We could continue on this path, and then we could do some work to research, what type of rules and regulations would be required to support the type of uses you're speaking of.
And perhaps where they might be placed, if so. Thanks.
Councillor Taming, I think you had your hand up.
Thank you, Ms. Can. Excellent presentation. Your report notes that Norfolk County is, I think, the gold standard for these sorts of things, and they've got a 150 setback if there's order controls, and a 300 setback if there's not. Have you been in touch with anybody down there in Norfolk to see how it's going? I understand it's being litigated. The mayor of Norfolk County recently said that odor complaints from these plants are the biggest complaint he has. So I'm just wondering, how much comfort do you and perhaps Ms. Coulter have that the odor suppression technology actually works and that people are happy with these setbacks? I wonder if either of you could speak to that.
Through you. Thank you for the question. We did have a presentation recently at a conference from a planner from Norfolk, and we understood the regulations to be sort of functioning well to this point. We would be more than happy to put a call in to get more information after that presentation was made to get some clarification. The setbacks established in this and in the Norfolk bylaw do address the province's D-series guidelines, which establishes those setbacks basically based on a class of industrial facility. So this mimics Norfolk's bylaw, which essentially scopes and uses the setback to speak to what class of facility they expect to see on those lands. I also would wonder if Norfolk, being a larger, more rural municipality, is seeing substantially larger facilities as a reason why they may be seeing more intensive odor and other impacts from that industrial use. But we would be more than happy to put a call in and do some further due diligence on that.
Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Ms. Can. I just want us to be able to say 10 years from now or 5 years from now, if complaints roll in, have we done everything we can within reason to implement the strictest controls in Ontario? And I wonder if you could speak to that, and if you can't, perhaps at the next meeting.
Through you once again, thank you. And I think we concur with what you're saying in that it's our interest to be to open up opportunities in the zoning bylaw by lifting some restrictions, but being stringent in our implementation of setbacks and other regulations to ensure that while being permissive, we remain on the sort of conservative side to ensure compatibility of uses. So I think we as staff completely agree with the notion that not being too permissive and inviting land use conflicts is prudent.
It's funny, we've had a couple of days this summer where we've had rural smells in the city that everyone could smell in the city. Anyone down here with a question? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your presentation. At this point, we ask if there's any public member that wishes to comment, and if so, we'll get you to come to the microphone and state who you are and fill out the form as well. I'm seeing nobody moving towards the microphone. Don't worry, there's times we want to escape too, but... So, not seeing anyone coming to the microphone, I'll therefore declare this public meeting closed, and thanks again, Ms. Can, for your presentation. Just before I go any further, I forgot to note that Councillor Hamley is not able to attend tonight, so he's not present, and I should have done that right at the start. So at number 9, we're at deputations, and we have Mr. Kafalis presenting on the Downtown River Precinct project update.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through Your Worship, I'm sorry to say that the project won't be completed or substantially completed by September 13th, which is the extended date for substantial completion. There have been some holdups regarding the paving stones that will be installed along the boulevard on the east side of First Avenue East and within the what we call the courtyard surrounding the pavilion. We've also had problems with various components of the pavilion itself, including the roofing, doors, and windows. We just received the shop drawings as of Friday afternoon, and in order to proceed with ordering those materials, they have to be approved before they can actually be ordered. We met with the regional general manager of the general contractor, and he assured us that they will be developing a plan to move things along and present that to the city, and we expect to have that any day now. We'll see that there is a lot of action took place today because the bricks actually arrived. They'll be used within the boulevard, and the remaining bricks should be arriving tomorrow. So you can see the subcontractor that's doing the landscaping he's got a full crew out there working hard at it. During their delay, they actually did some of the softscaping, where the planting of the trees and the vegetation during that time, brought in the topsoil, spread that, the mulch as well to help fill up their time. They may be completed by Friday, their work. If they push hard, they might be able to do that. But again, you'll see there's very little action taking place on the pavilion itself. Again, we're working with our general contractor to move that along as fast as possible. I mean, it's really up to them to push their subs to get this work completed as quickly as possible.
Questions? Councillor Kepke?
Thank you. Just a question, do you have an anticipated date then?
Thank you for your question. We're still, well, now we want to make sure we get everything completed as much as possible so we can hold our special event on September 28th. I have talked to the CBO, the Chief Building Officer, to give me a list of requirements to what will be needed to get occupancy of the pavilion. And once he provides me that list, that'll be presented to the contractor to say this is what we need, and if that can't be accommodated, then we'll have to maybe make some special arrangements in terms of pavilion and that special event.
Deputy Mayor O'Leary?
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, Dennis, who is the contractor that's doing the work on the building itself?
Through your worship, the subcontractor is Graham Construction that's responsible to complete the construction of the pavilion.
So he's a subcontractor, so we didn't specifically hire him, we hired Millers and they've hired Richard Graham Construction. Is that the way it works?
Correct. E.C. King was the successful bidder for the tender, and their subs were Neerhoff for the landscaping and Graham Construction for the pavilion.
Okay, so lots of people asking questions why there's absolutely nothing being done to that building. The first report I had was the roofing was ordered wrong. The last one I've got is the roofing wasn't ordered at all. Can you set the record straight?
Based on our last meeting with the contractor, the roofing wasn't ordered as of last Thursday. Yeah, we're expecting it to arrive this week, but again, we'll leave it to, we'll be talking to our general contractor to get a confirmation as to when that roofing will arrive. Our engineer on site has instructed the subcontractor they can start to do a lot of other work, including the siding and installation of other interior finishes in the meantime until such time as the roofing does arrive, in order to help expedite the completion of the pavilion.
So most of the walls are siding, correct? Or, sorry, most of the walls are garage doors, because there's so many of them. But there is siding, there's soffit. Has all of that been ordered? Is all of that on time? Or do we have any control over that, or do we just have to deal with Millers?
We have to, thank you for the question, through your worship, we have to deal with Millers. But again, we've been pushing the subcontractor every time we've had meetings on site to go over some of the other components of the building and look at any deficiencies during these inspections. And again, we've instructed them that they can start work on many of these other aspects that form part of the pavilion construction.
So the reason I'm asking for the most part is a lot of people have done a lot of work to get this Riverside reunion up and going. That's going to be on the 28th of September. So where are we going to be at with the building in terms of the 28th of September?
We're hoping, through your worship, we're hoping that that building will be substantially completed by that date. We should have a better idea by the end of this week. We are working with staff that are responsible for the organization of that event to see if it doesn't happen, what we can do in the meantime. And that's why when we're dealing with the Chief Building Officer, to see what we actually need to gain occupancy of that building and what's required. And again, once we establish that and find out where the contractor is or subcontractor is in terms of ordering all the different materials that's needed to complete the building, we can actually assess what we're going to do with our special event.
Okay, promise, last question. Do we have any control over this in terms of the contract itself, in terms of penalties, accountability, or is that completely out of our hands? Is that totally up to Millers?
It's up to Millers, but we have a contract with Millers that they have to be substantially completed, and we do have penalties within the contract that we can impose if they're not substantially completed by the 13th, which is this Friday.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to go to Councillor Thomas next.
Thanks, Your Worship. While I agree the event is a concern, I'm a little more concerned with the impact on the 10th Street Bridge project. We were quite clear as a council when we approved all of this year that River Precinct had to be done before the 10th Street Bridge could be closed. I would like to know whether First Avenue East is going to be fully completed and fully open permanently before the 10th Street Bridge closes on September 23rd.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship, that First Avenue will be open by the time we close for the 10th Street Bridge.
Good, thank you, Councillor Dodd.
Can I just
Oh, sorry,
follow
go-
up here?
sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
But I want to clarify, I want to make sure that we're not going to have day-to-day closures of that road as we try to complete work that was supposed to be done. Because again, I mean, listen, everyone around this table is probably hearing from people about what's going on downtown with the streets. And we have put an aggressive agenda forward, and we all knew it was coming, and we all know that the bridge closure is coming. But again, when we stressed, I believe at least, when we stressed that River Precinct had to be done, it was because we knew how inconvenient the entire summer was going to be and what the impact was going to be if First Avenue was opening and closing and opening and closing while we've got this major other project starting. So again, are we going to be in a position where it's going to be open, or are we going to be periodically closing it again to try and get this work done that was supposed to be done?
Perhaps I'll jump in to try to assist Mr. Kafalis. Based on our meeting with the general contractor, our engineers, on Thursday, Miller's assured us they are in charge of the asphalting crew, and they would have it done prior to the bridge closing First Avenue East. That should allow us to open that road. In fairness, Miller's have done, certainly a great job of the civil works, and I put faith that their district manager told us that would happen, and I put faith in him that it will happen. They have control of that particular procedure.
Okay,
I would agree as well that Miller has done an excellent job down there, but it just, it irks me to see us held up like this and to see the whole project screech to a halt. At our last meeting, we heard that an extension had been granted, and then there was nobody down there for the next 10 days. So, I mean, I'm a little pissed off about the way this has all gone.
I'll ask you to rephrase.
I'm a little upset, Your
Thank you.
Worship, at the way things have gone here, and I think that, again, there's got to be some accountability in here somewhere, because, again, you folks have all worked so hard to make sure that all the dominoes were in place and that none of them were going to fall out of place if everything happened the way it should. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be honest, I was just going to repeat what Councillor Thomas had just commented on. I think one of the biggest things we faced when we were at budget was about this tight timeline that we were facing. There was some projects that we knew were going to be necessities and some projects that were just more of luxuries. I still think the downtown River Precinct is obviously going to be enhancing our riverfront. And I guess that's the biggest thing, is what can we do in our control? Because yes, Miller's has done a great job, but at the same point, we need someone to really push on those projects to ensure that when 10th Street Bridge goes down, we are fully functional and we're fully prepared of what we're doing. And I don't mean to push this onto staff, because staff, you're right, Councillor Thomas made that comment. Staff has done the proper things to get all these projects done, so they're aligned with each other. And it's just really unfortunate that no matter how we can set some things up, we're really at the reliance of some of these subcontractors. And to hear that certain products have not been ordered, yet stated they've been ordered, is very disheartening. And I think that leads to a future discussion about some of the players who are doing contracts with us. Because I think if you're going to be working with the City of Owen Sound, we are on a tight timeline, especially at this point, and contractors need to be held liable for that time, whether it's the GC or it's the sub-trades who are doing those jobs. There's got to be some sort of penalties towards it, and I think that the biggest thing we can do now, I guess, is ensuring that 10th Street Bridge, when it is down, that this city does not come to a gridlock. So, thank you.
Through your worship, Mr. Kafalis, a couple of times you've used the phrasing substantially completed. Can you please put that in more specific terms? what's left or what will be done. So I understand what that actually means.
It's easy to quantify in terms of we're looking at, when you're substantially completed, you're looking at about 99.5% completed. There's very little remaining. It's usually very minor items. In this case, when we thought when we were talking about substantial completion, we thought all the hard surfacing would be done, the pavilion would be done, the only remaining things that wouldn't be done would be actually planting of the vegetation and installation of maybe some of the furnishings that would be included as part of the project. Like as indicated earlier, there are penalty clauses within the contract. I know a lot of people think it's easy to disqualify certain contractors from doing business with the city, and that can be done, but it takes a great deal of work. You have to build up a file. Unless you've actually been involved in something like that, you don't understand what it takes. We're talking a file that would be this thick and why you wouldn't award him a tender. Tender law is very specific. Low bids win. And in this case, we can't really say, yes, we'll take the low bid unless certain subcontractors are included. We can't put stipulations in there saying that no contracts will be awarded to companies that are under litigation with the city. You can't include those clauses, but if you're looking at performances, we have to build up a case as to why we'd never award specific contracts to individuals. And until we develop that background information, it would be something I wouldn't recommend undertaking unless we have everything lined up to do. So right now, we're following tender law. We have stipulated those penalty clauses in place for liquidated damages, and that decision will be made come Friday, whether or not we're imposing them. And given what we've experienced to date with some of the dealings with some of the specific subcontractors, again, as a team, we'll decide whether or not we're imposing those penalties. But we've been honest and fair with the contractor. We expected that to be returned. And in most cases, with the EC King, it has been. I can't say it has been with some of the subs.
If I could, Your Worship, certainly several of the key factors for the Downtown River project and the 10th Street Bridge were in regards certainly to First Avenue East being open, absolutely. Probably the real key was that the work on 8th Street Bridge would be done. And again, Miller's worked with our staff on that particular project very well. It is done. It will not be a factor. So 8th Street will be open. As I said, Mr. Wilms assured us, looking at his staff who look after their asphalt, that they would be done prior to us needing it for our event. As frustrated as we are with some of the other work on this, the key components that the public sees getting around this town, we have assurance from Miller's that they will be done. They have not let us down in this project, and I have confidence they won't let us down at this point. The rest, extremely frustrating.
Councillor Gregg and Councillor Tamming, the only ones that haven't spoken so far, don't know if they wish to. Seeing not. No, you're okay. Deputy Mayor O'Leary wanted to wrap it up.
I just wanted to make one more point to your point, Dennis. We've done our job. We're always under the gun to hire local contractors. Richard Graham Construction is a local contractor. He is in Owen Sound. We've done our part. Let's hope he does his.
Okay, we're going to move on. Mr. Kafalis, back to you, and we're talking about 10th Street Bridge, which you probably just answered half of it already.
Through your worship, we're moving full bore ahead with our communication plan. We've developed a Spadia. I think it went out in today's paper. Anyways, it'll be going out soon. It was developed on the weekend. That'll be circulated throughout the city. We're going to have some additional copies here at City Hall to give out to people that are coming in. We made an appearance on the Collins Show last Thursday. We had quite a few callers, all very positive. Some of the main things that they asked were easy to address. One individual asked why we're not working 24/7, and our answer was that, well, we do have to realize that we do have people, a lot of residential properties within the vicinity of the bridge, and it wouldn't be fair to them to have the pile driving construction taking place 24/7. It is a confined space. It's not like we can put several piling rigs out there and have space to do that. And again, there would be additional costs to the contract in order to have crews and the shift premiums that you'd have to pay to have staff working 24/7. We will be appearing on Grey County Living this week. The contractor has its subcontractors conducting condition assessments of the buildings within the red zone, and the red zone is the area within close proximity of the bridge where buildings may be susceptible to the work that will be taking place. So essentially, they have an individual going around, he goes into the buildings, he takes pictures, he checks out the foundations, the structures, checks for cracks, that sort of thing. And again, we'll be putting vibrating equipment that senses vibration to ensure that the buildings are not impacted negatively by the ongoing piling work. Thank you, City Manager. But here's what will be included in the paper. It's a kind of a fold-out. It'll include maps of the detour, the affected areas for our transit routes, give some pertinent information regarding the bridge itself, show a nice rendering of what the bridge will look like, and this will be actually cut out and you can post on your fridge. And as well, there's some key facts of what to do for keeping calm during traffic and the delays associated with the detour. We're still slated to close 10th Street on the week of September 23rd. The contractor is staking out construction signs at the entrances to the city, waiting final approval from MTO and the county. We're finalizing those signs, and those signs will be enclosed a week before the actual closure of 10th Street.
Thank you. Questions? Go ahead, Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. The advertising that you're passing around here, is that only going in the newspaper, or is it going in other places?
That main advertising is actually specifically geared for the newspaper, and it's suspended that it actually includes where you stick the paper in, so it's part of the delivery mechanism with the newspaper. But it's among many things that we're doing to help prep and communicate what's going on with the bridge.
So is it going in with the flyers or the actual newspaper?
The newspaper.
Mr. Richard.
The newspaper is actually contained within it. It folds around a newspaper.
We did, Mr. Fisher has ordered a small overrun of 500, I believe, so we will have them at City Hall to distribute to those people who may want them and don't get the newspaper.
So it's not being distributed with those flyers, because everybody gets the flyers, but not everybody gets a newspaper. Okay.
Good. Others? Seeing none, thank you very much. Public question period at number 10. Seeing nobody run for that microphone too quickly, or not quickly enough. Number 11, correspondence. We have no correspondence which we need to consider. At number 12A, the first report is from, I believe, Ms. Coulter with regard to Braemont Telfer Creek subdivision.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. This is a technical planning report respecting an application for draft plan of subdivision by Braemont Own Sound. Next slide. The subject lands are 33 acres in area. They're located on the north side of 8th Street East, immediately east of Grey Bruce Health Services, and they have 322 meters of frontage on 8th Street East. The proposal, next slide. The proposal includes the extension of 20th Avenue from 8th Street North. So 8th Street's at the bottom of the screen. So we have 43 single detached dwellings, 20 semis, 31 street fronting townhouses, 3 blocks along the left side, the larger blocks with medium and high density residential, 2 blocks containing parkland, and 2 blocks including stormwater management. And then you can see the road is the major north-south extension of 20th, and then a P-loop, which will be local streets. A significant amount of information was submitted with the application. It's listed in the report, and anyone who's interested can see any of those reports and studies. They're available at the link on the city's website. In 2018, Council had approved the official plan amendment and zoning that really sets the policy framework in place to support the development of these lands for residential uses. The proposed draft plan of subdivision will be required to achieve all the relevant policy, the provincial policy statement, the PPS, the Planning Act, County and City Official Plan, as well as our zoning bylaw. In terms of next steps, we have a public meeting scheduled for September 23rd. That will provide the public an opportunity to provide input on the draft plan of subdivision. September 30th, we're scheduled to go to Accessibility Committee, and following that, hopefully early in October, we'll be back to Council with a recommendation report depending on the feedback that we receive. So the recommendation, Your Worship, is that Council would receive the technical report, that you would direct the City Clerk to prepare for the public meeting on September 23rd, to consider the draft plan, and following the public meeting, staff would bring forward a recommendation to you for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd be happy to move these recommendations. I think it's great to see this moving along in the process. We've all worked long and hard to see this happen in Owen Sound, and I would like to commend planning staff and all the work that they've put into it, because I know it's been a lot of work.
Thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead, Councillor Tamming.
Ms. Coulter, sort of a general question, because I get asked this by a lot of people, including my wife. We hear about hotels, we hear about subdivisions and so forth, and I appreciate it may not be in your bailiwick to tell us when these projects might get launched, but let me rephrase that. Is it ever possible for you to say this is a 1, 2, 3-year outside project? And if that's an inappropriate question, don't answer it. I don't want to touch on commercially sensitive information, but people want to know when we're getting a hotel and stuff, so. Yeah.
So then at the next meeting, Council will receive the actual bylaw relating to that hotel development per your last meeting. This development, I guess all I could tell you is Braemont seems anxious to proceed. They've done a tremendous job of providing us with an excellent application, good supporting documentation. We look forward to the public meeting and look forward to working with them on a subdivision agreement, and hopefully they'll be first off the mark and servicing, next spring.
Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, Councillor, I agree. The development process seems long. I can tell you, as people come forward, developers, it is a process. There are a number of steps to it. They come forward in their due time and their due diligence, who have to fund and do a lot of work to get to these processes as well. And our staff collectively turn these around as quick as we can. And then, and then the public, and because I say the same, trust me. When are we going to see people coming on the ground? When are they going to pull a permit, a building permit? I want to see that. We can only work with them as they come forward and process them as quickly as we can to the next step. And trust me, staff as much as council and the people in the street who ask me as well, when are we going to see these coming out of the ground? All I can tell you is we process each step as quickly as we can. These are, for this development and several of the others, these are huge developments with a lot of financial impacts for the owners and their team of planners and engineers. But as Ms. Coulter has said, certainly at the present moment, this particular developer seems very keen for us to expedite getting to the next step. That's really all we can tell you, but nobody would be more pleased than we are when they take a building permit, and as His Worship says, he's standing in front helping cut a ribbon.
Good. Did I call the question? I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 12B, report from Community Services with regard to mayor's photographs.
Thank you, Worship. Near the end of the mandate of the City Hall Ad Hoc Committee, and as we're having discussion tonight about delays, it certainly doesn't seem all that long ago, but we're in a tremendous space now. So the committee had provided direction with respect to the various artwork, plaque, and awards that were here on the walls at City Hall. At that time, the mayor's photos were to be digitized and put on screens and put on our website. Since that time, we have exterior signage, we have interior wayfinding signage, and the branding logos for behind Service Zone Sound and behind where council sits will soon be installed. Staff are bringing forward this report to allow council to either continue on with the current direction with respect to the mayor's photographs or select a different option. I've offered a few alternatives. One is just putting back the current frame photos in their current form. They're larger, I'm going to say kind of 8.5 by 11 photos. They would require a significant amount of wall space. Council will recall they did hang on the brick walls just outside of council chambers. Similar to what the County of Grey did, we could consolidate and put about 12 photos in a frame. They would be digitized and made smaller. The cost to the county, they tell us, was about $1,800 to do that work, and there's a photo attached to your report. Lastly, you could certainly maintain the status quo where we'll digitize the images for display on the screens and on our website. So we're just looking for council to provide direction if you wish to revisit that earlier direction.
Councillor Dodd, you're swinging your hand around.
Sorry, that was a fruit fly. It's been bugging me all night.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were...
I don't know why there's a fruit fly in here. The rule was no eating in here, but the thing's bugging me.
Did you bring it in with you?
I might have. I got them at my house too. They're all over my mint. Anyways, now where am I?
Do you want to swap again and start over?
Yeah. I guess when we first looked at this process back last year, I'll be honest, I was with the idea of going to the digitalized images on the screens because I thought that was going to be a neat way to kind of collectively see the changing of the mayor's faces. Well, not that they change all the time. Ah, oh, jeez, this is a bad start. I should go back on vacation. But I guess what I'm going to say is I really liked the way the Grey County had done the warden's photos. I think it also keeps that sense of that's actually a physical picture still there. I know when we were in Brockville and other cities that we toured, because my Alexa really enjoys going to other city halls to see what they look like. So every time we go to a new city, I always go to the city hall to take a look what it looks like. So anyways, I do still value the picture of an actual physical image showing that significance of the past mayors. So I would move the recommendation that we go to the Grey County for a platform of going with the physical prints and by 12s and put them somewhere around the council.
Here we go. So the motion is on the floor. Discussion thereof. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I'd support that motion. I think that's a good compromise solution. You know, part of the problem with the original mayor's photos is in the early days of Owen Sound, municipal elections were held every single year. So there were a heck of a lot of mayors in those photos, and they do take up a lot of wall space. I think this is a nice compromise because part of honoring your heritage is having a thing. It's about things, it's about spaces, it's about being able to see something and touch something. And I think that having the physical photos here is still a much better way to honor our heritage than digital images. So I do support it.
Thank you. Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Worship. Just curious how many photos we actually have that would be. You
Through
don't
your
know.
worship, I haven't counted them.
Okay.
A lot.
I certainly am in favor of displaying them. Just curious where you might think they'd be displayed.
I hadn't turned my mind completely to that, and maybe council would have an idea about
Okay.
that.
I'll leave that one. I have been asked from others when Her Majesty's picture might be going back up in the chambers, or is that not happening?
Through you, your worship, the Own Sound logo will be in a brushed aluminum, kind of a silver behind the mayor. If you would like Prince Philip and the Queen's pictures to be placed back up, we can certainly do that too. We've retained those. We can do that.
It's something I've been asked by particularly Legionnaires.
So that's something we can maybe look at committee. Who's next? Go ahead, Carol.
Through your worship, as the mayor, I would be interested in knowing how you felt.
You'd need a red couch and about an hour's worth of time on the psychiatry of that one, I think. everyone's earned their bullets, I suppose, and it is kind of special for the people that have been there before to be recognized.
Thank you.
Councillor Thomas, you had your hand back up again, I think.
Yes, Your Worship, the thing I missed in my quick commentary was I think we have an excellent sweeping white wall directly behind me here that would be an excellent place to put the pictures of the mayors. I think they should be within the council chamber, and I would further suggest that Prince Philip and the Queen could reside on one of these walls as well, rather than directly over the mayor's position, though there may be protocols involved, and I don't know. So that's my suggestion.
Do we need an amendment for place of the motion or not?
Through you, Your Worship, and please, Madam Clerk, correct me if you disagree. I don't think we need a motion because specifically the earlier motion that was approved by council in the minutes of the ad hoc committee wasn't specific with respect to the mayor. So I don't think you need a 2/3 majority, but just direction specifically with respect to the mayor's photos.
And do you want a specific direction on placement? That was my other.
Hearing what council has suggested this evening, there's a couple of blank walls. We'll see how many, I guess, sections or panels we have when we have them all done and see
Yeah,
where
that
they
makes sense.
best fit. But I certainly hear council in
Yeah, that's going
chambers.
to be a big difference, isn't it? Deputy Mayor O'Leary, did you have your hand up? Wasn't sure.
Oh, I was just going to quickly say that I will support the motion. I was also on the digital train there for a bit, but to be honest, I get lit up a few times. This is a rather sensitive issue, and so I'll support the motion.
Thank you. Okay, any other further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. 12C, Mr. Kafalis, Riverside Reunion Road closure.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship, city staff is seeking council approval to close First Avenue East in the 800 block, Municipal Lot 1, which is the City Hall parking lot, and newly proposed Municipal Lot 6, which will be adjacent to the Farmers Market Pavilion, in order to hold the Riverside Reunion scheduled for Saturday, September 28th. It should be noted that a portion of First Avenue East in the 800 block of the city of 9th Street will remain open to service the Tim Hortons drive-through.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move the recommendation. I think that's kind of funny, though, because Councillor Thomas was really upset 10 minutes ago about this road being closed. And that's after the bridge is closed, so I guess we'll have to work with it.
Just one night, or we'll have a 8-to-1 vote or something. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Thanks. That gets us through the staff reports. Thank you very much. Ms. Bloomfield, I've got a consent agenda up.
Through Your Worship, on the consent agenda this evening is a report respecting the Georgian Bluffs draft zoning bylaw, a report respecting the Sydenham Fall Fair at Victoria Park. There are 2 planning notices from Georgian Bluffs, a community flag flying request from École Saint-Dominique Savio. There are minutes for receipt from the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority, the Owen Sound Housing Company, and the Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation. And lastly, there is correspondence presented for the information of council. A full listing is available at 13J.
Great, thank you. Councillor Tamming.
I move that the City Council receive items. I move that City Council receive items 13A through 13J on the consent agenda dated September 9, 2019. And I further move that the recommendations contained in reports 13A and 13B be approved.
Good, thank you. All in favor? That is carried. If I can jump back to, I think, 13F and G, there's minutes from Grey Sauble Conservation Authority. Councillor Kepi.
Thank you, Your Worship. With respect to the minutes of June 26, parking revenues from Inglis Falls and Highboo Park netted over $90,000 in 2018. This revenue is used to offset costs of property taxes and invest in the future of these properties for public access. The board reviewed next steps for Conservation Authorities Act changes, and staff are initiating proactive outreach to county and local municipal staff about what services municipalities value highly and need, and what GSCA is providing now with a concept of future memorandums of understanding for programs. The annual report on regulation mapping was provided, identifying mapping of watercourses, flood-prone areas, Great Lakes shoreland, wetland water bodies, and associated allowances. A report was received on improving communications and the potential for GSC Agriculture Advisory Committee and other communication options, which concluded that staff need to have enhanced communication with our farm communities to investigate any concerns with CA permit requirements and approaches, to gain advice on farming techniques and practices, to help reach farmers when there are stewardship funds available, and to enable GSCA to be better known across the agricultural community. The board approved that staff continue to seek opportunities to interact with and engage with the membership of the Grey County Federation of Agriculture and other agricultural associations within our watershed, and compile future information and supports that the agricultural industry would like CAs to have and provide to them. With respect to the July 24 special meeting, this meeting was held to put in place interim staffing to cover the vacancy of the CAO and to act upon a request for collaboration from Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, given that their CAO will be retiring in October 2019. A further meeting of GSCA and SVCA will be taking place on September 17th to discuss. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Has anyone got any questions for Councillor Koepke? Seeing none. Councillor Merton, Housing Company Incorporation.
Through your worship, the minutes of the Owen Sound Housing Company Limited are presented to you for information and reference, and if there are no questions, then I would request that you accept those as received.
They're moved with all of them, so they're moved already, so it's just information that you wanted to draw out, if any.
Yeah, and the information is included within them. Any questions? No? And the same is true for 13I, which is the Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation. The minutes are included for information if there are no questions.
Seeing no questions, so
Thank you.
So we've got no committee reports, number 14, which is a rarity. No postponed matters, no notices of motion which are previously given. Additional business. Councillor Merton, you're up first.
I would like to discuss, to gain a better understanding for myself as a councillor, on the role of council relating to two components. One is the assumptions or guidelines around which budget process moves forward, and the other is the oversight responsibility around any variances or having the information around variance reporting. We understand that and anticipate there will be changes to our budget by 2021. We're not sure what they are, but we understand that changes are coming. I would like to know, in this budget process for the year 2020, what assumptions or guidelines are we providing in that process that allows us to move forward, to be prepared, to be ahead of the curve, or to be anticipating what may come down for us. The specifics we may not know, but what are the assumptions and guidelines that will help us in decision-making as we move forward with budget?
Mr. Ritchie, you're about the only one that can answer that, I think.
I will certainly try, Your Worship. The assumption staff have is we will provide the same services at the same levels of service in 2020 to our citizens as we did in 2019. That's the way we start every budget, unless we have direction from council previous to that, either through council meetings or committees, that you want to either enhance a service or reduce a service. We did a service review in 2016. We went through all of the services we provide. We compared them to comparators. The public, it was an open, transparent process. The public, absolutely, they love our services. as we know, they're not perhaps quite as enthused about the total tax bill, but it's difficult to find a service anybody specifically wants to cut. So our assumptions going in are we're going to provide the same services. We do look at cost changes as well as revenue changes. I can tell you, even though she isn't here every day, Kate is compiling those from all of our staff. The biggest impacts to us, obviously, are contracts we've agreed to with our union and non-union staff, increases to utilities, increases to gas, all of those things, we factor those in. Our first blush coming back to council in the first meeting, we'll be reporting to you, what would that mean? And that's where we start, and then quite frankly, council would look and say, probably what can we do? Are there services that we may wish to reduce? Certainly I'm not hearing from the public as well as council that there are any services we may want to enhance. This comes back to my earlier comment to the council that, trust me, the easiest way for us to move ahead for all of the 22,000 citizens in Owen Sound is with growth. It is coming, and that would help your budget process with an assumption of what will that growth be in 2020, 2021, 2022. But those are the assumptions we make. It's very difficult for staff to say, I'm going to come in with a projection we want to get to below 2%. It may not be achieved. Matter of fact, I will tell you it probably isn't achievable, providing the same level of service and the services we have. But that's what you will see, and at future meetings on the budget, council as a whole will have an opportunity to say, how do we move from whatever that number is to something different than that? So that's the process.
Go ahead.
Through your worship. So that's business as usual, budget process as usual. What concerns me is what's coming and what's looming ahead. Should we as a council with staff be having discussions around forecasting, projection, anticipation, to be able to strategically think of options? Do we need to prepare in 2020 for what may occur, even if we extrapolated a certain percentage reduction in some of the funding that would come? Do we have a plan? Are we financially looking ahead? None of us has a crystal ball. I understand that. But it's pretty clear something's going to change, and I don't think it's on the plus side. And I'm wondering how we can even have those discussions as we move forward. It would be great if we had a year of grace this year to plan, and I'm wondering if that's what we're given. It would be even better if we didn't have those reductions coming, but I'm not hearing that yet. I remain hopeful. How do we move forward with planning around financial forecasting to be prepared?
So again, Your Worship, from a staff perspective, and certainly whenever we meet with our friends on the particularly provincial front, we encourage them. Quite frankly, what council is directing here is a large ship. Everybody in town is affected by the services the city provides. It's a large ship you're steering. In order to turn any large ship, it takes time, it takes the thinking process. We can't reduce the cost of running that ship in a month, in 6 months. We need advance time. Quite frankly, every municipality in Ontario, we need to hear at least 12 months ahead what's going to happen. The largest two grants that the city depends on the operating side, are OMPF, that over the years has been certainly reviewed by the province a number of times. Our understanding is for 2020, OMPF will not be changing. That's great. I encourage the provincial government, if they're going to change the formula for OMPF, they have to let all municipalities know as soon as possible for 2021. And I believe that message has been heard by the province. The next large grant we have is gas tax for transit. Our transit service, round numbers, don't hold me to these, cost the city of Owen Sound roughly $800,000. It's supported by about $300,000 in revenues and roughly $300,000 in gas tax for transit. But we can't do much with that. Our citizens that use the transit service absolutely depend on that transit service. We have found that out over and over again. So if that day comes, and I hope it doesn't, I agree with you, I absolutely hope it doesn't, But if they feel no longer they can provide to municipalities the gas tax for transit, and I don't believe they will, by the way, council would be faced with a very difficult decision. Do you increase user fares against part of the public who really can at least afford that? Or do you pick it up in the tax increase? Those are the kind of decisions that councils of the future are going to have to make. And that's why sitting here as staff, sitting here as council, I can't encourage our senior partners enough. Give us lots of warning so we can either change the path this ship is on or let our public know we're going to continue those services, but in fact, user fees, if it's transit, or other user fees will go up, or your taxes will go up. I can tell you in 20 years of doing this, your citizens, they love the services you provide to them. They need them every day. It will be a very difficult choice, but to try to anticipate what it will mean, we can tell you for an increase in user fees or an increase in tax rate, what these cuts will mean to you if they come. But I think it's very difficult on staff to give you advice on what services you may want to reduce. That will be a decision, quite frankly, a gut-wrenching decision for council. Okay.
Through your worship, the other component is around understanding the oversight responsibility of council. We approved a budget, and does that budget or where we are variance reporting come back to us so that we understand throughout a year where the process is?
If I could, Your Worship, I believe, and I checked with Kate today, I haven't unfortunately had a chance to check today myself, but I believe a variance report for the first quarter went forward to corporate services in June. There will be one coming in September on what it is to June, so a 6-month report. The way our business operates, what we're telling you basically in that first one is how our winter control is. And as we all know, winter control was not very good in the first part of this year. We're over. We've been over before. We have contingency plans if we are to get through a year. So that's the oversight you get. You should get, quite frankly, 3 reports a year, and the final one is wrapped up in the budget, giving you a projection to the end of the year. What I can tell you from where I sit now, and I watch it every month, I practically look at it every week, overall, our bottom line right today is fine. I can't see the future to see what October, November, December are going to be like for winter control, but right now I feel confident. We have, I'm getting a bad feeling as I'm even saying this. Today as we stand here, you're fine. But you will get a full report in September telling you the ins and outs of where we've got to that.
So the report will come through operations rather than council as a whole, or
No, corporate
services? Thank you. That's helpful.
And we've previously had a report through corporate services that would have come through council, so you will have seen it. Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Did you want me to speak to that, or did you want me to?
No, I thought you were next on the list.
Okay, thank you. I'll preface by mentioning that Grey County Council approved compensation for the deputy warden and Grey County councillors who cover for warden at events outside their municipalities. The reason for this is the number of requests has doubled over the past few years. It's very difficult with the city as well. With the number of requests on the rise, there are many times we as councillors help fill in when the mayor is double booked and attend on his behalf. The point I'm making is everyone wants the mayor to bring greetings at their events, and quite frankly, that's because we're here for all the people. That brings me to last Wednesday, September 4th. I want to first congratulate the local Liberal candidate for bringing the Prime Minister of Canada to the city of Owen Sound. I am a Conservative, but frankly that doesn't matter. I'm proud as a city resident that the Prime Minister of Canada was walking the streets of Owen Sound. I'm not proud, however, that our mayor was not invited to greet the Prime Minister to our city. This was a massive mistake. How do you sit down at a table with the Prime Minister to discuss small business without our city mayor? If you noticed, I didn't mention the mayor's name. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter. It's the mayor's chair, and if the prime minister comes to town, the mayor should be there to greet him. It's as simple as that. I'll open for other councillors to make a comment.
Anyone else wish to? Councillor Tamming's got his hand up.
Councillor O'Leary, I second that. I hope it was an error. Our mayor represents all of us, and I can't imagine entering a city, a town, a village without giving a heads up to the representative of that place. So perhaps the candidate will give us an apology or an explanation, but I share that. I was not aware of that, and I share your view.
Councillor Kepke?
Just a brief comment. I certainly agree that this was a huge oversight, but I think it was also somewhat disrespectful of your position.
The chair, it's got nothing to do with me. Anyone else? Councillor Gregg?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor O'Leary, because I was going to go through the night without speaking tonight. But you and I won't agree all the time, but I couldn't agree with those comments any more. I thought it was a terrible oversight. In fact, I thought, and there's quite a contrast, I thought the behavior of a couple individuals on 8th Street was just deplorable. I couldn't, and just shameful, just absolutely shameful to the position of the Prime Minister. You respect the position. You may have problems with the individual, but you respect the position. The Prime Minister was in town, and we had somebody who stood on 8th Street in the middle of the street harassing and yelling and being disruptive to well over 150 people probably. It was just shameful. I wish I never saw it in our community. And I think it's quite a contrast, or the same, but you know, just not recognizing the position of mayor and not having invited the mayor to that particular roundtable. And and this is a swift initiative that is being really driven through the county. The mayor's on county council. He is the conduit. The internet is generally run through tangible and intangible conduit, but that's all it is information travel. He is the conduit to county council, and to not have had him invited, I thought was almost as shameful as the behavior of the individual that was on 8th Street.
From my point of view, it's always an honor to represent the citizens of Owen Sound. We, with any minister, with any premier, and we did have a premier. Can you imagine we had the premier and the prime minister in our city within 10 days of each other? Unbelievable. It's so rare that we get either of them, and it's pretty special. It's always an honor to represent the community when these people come, because it is special. We had Bardish Chager, who was the House, I'm not sure if she's the whip, she's the House leader, I think, for the government right now, and that was special to have her here. And it's always special to be able to represent the community, and these people come. It's an unfortunate of an oversight, obviously. You want to wrap up easily?
Yeah, just a couple of final comments. I guess I'm just really disappointed more than anything. You know, I even had a 10-minute conversation with Dwight Barley, the mayor of Georgian Bluffs. And if anyone knows Dwight, you know how proud he is of the Wyerton International Airport. And, you know, he got a phone call from staff at the airport saying there's a private jet coming in an hour, and rumor has it the Prime Minister's on it. He said, I didn't know what to do. Like, what do you do? I wasn't invited. So he drove there. So, I mean, it's just as awkward trying to go anyways, like, you know, for someone to say, well, why didn't the mayor go anyway? Well, you don't go unless you're invited. He was just put in a terrible position, and I just think it's really sad. I know that the Premier of Ontario was here 3 weeks ago, and the mayor was definitely invited, and he was there to greet the Premier, and I think it's the right thing to do. It better not have anything to do with, you know, whether you're conservative or liberal, because that's certainly not our way up here. I mean, I talk all the time about, I couldn't have more respect for Richard Thomas, who is a true liberal, and I'm a conservative. That never gets in the way of us working together as councillors, and it certainly doesn't get in the way of our friendship. And this better not have anything to do with that, because it is the mayor's chair, it is the Prime Minister of Canada, and never mind the names. The two go hand in hand when he visits our city. Those are my comments. Thanks.
If I can move on with the additional business with my things that I've attended the last few weeks, and you're going to see a little bit of a theme going on here. 10 days ago, I got to...
Sorry, Your Worship, can I make one comment, and it's not related, but I know you tend to wrap things up, is that correct? So
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. On a completely other unrelated topic, I just have a general question about special council meetings. And what prompts this is, we've had a lot of correspondence, at least I have, about the climate change initiatives that are going on. Tomorrow night, for instance, there's an all-candidates meeting where that's the agenda. We've had people speak to us in council about climate change concerns. Your Worship, Your Worship has written a very good letter in response to some of the concerns. But I'm wondering what the process would be for inviting climate change activists and the general public to a special meeting of council. I don't know if anything like that's been held before, but I don't know if Your Worship could speak to the process. Not whether you're in favor or against, but just the process that a councillor would go, or perhaps inviting the group to arrange that. I don't know if it's appropriate now to speak to that, but it's just a very current issue, and that's what prompts this.
Ms. Bloomfield.
Well, our procedural bylaw outlines the calling of meetings, so special meetings need to be called within 48 hours. So it's basically at the discretion, it can be at the discretion of council if they'd like to hold a special council meeting, and we can help with the coordinating of that.
So if I may continue. So themes. All of council, or most of council, volunteered and helped out at the Salmon Spectacular, volunteering a couple of weeks ago. On the Saturday night, I got to serve fish to people coming through. There was 3,500 baked potatoes, and I'm sure we went through about 3,200 of them. Not everyone took a baked potato, so I'm confident that we served fish to more than 4,000 people in the community in about 4 hours, which is had a pretty sore arm after. But it was great tasting fish. Congratulations to the Sydenham Sportsman's Club, led on this event by Fred Geppert and his son Chris. Congratulations and thank you to all the volunteers, all the sponsors that make this such a huge sports tourism event for our community. Largest salmon in 20 years and the largest trout caught ever. I don't know, and I wouldn't be able to guess the economic spin-off from that event, from hotels to gas to restaurants to fishing lures to all those things, and people that come back at other times and rent cottages, etc., just promoting the area. The Sydenham Sportsman's Club go to, I forget how many boat shows, outdoors shows, from Sudbury to London, tourism shows, Toronto, all winter long to promote the event and to promote our area. They take a lot of pamphlets promoting our city and the county, and it really is community-minded, and it's great. I attended Tuesday welcoming the first-year students at Georgian College and encouraged them to get involved in our community. For a lot of them, some of them are coming to a bigger community, some are coming to a smaller community, and they've got opportunities here to go and take in events and become involved. Second part of the theme, Deputy Mayor O'Leary and I joined our Warden Hicks and many others of the Grey County Cattlemen's Association annual beef barbecue for the opening of the 167th Owen Sound Fall Fair on Friday. Beef industry represents 13.7% of Ontario farms. They contribute $2.69 billion to Ontario's GDP. The beef was great. They spent all day barbecuing. It's pretty amazing. And the next part of that theme, of course, is we go from fish to beef to this weekend being Rib Fest. Just keep eating. You have to start running harder on the bicycle, I think. I also attended the 5th Annual Kidney Walk on Saturday and the Walk for Parkinson's on Sunday. Both great events with a lot of community involvement, raising awareness for people that have kidney disease or Parkinson's, that they're working together. They're raising money for research, for education, for projects or programs, and for services. So it's very good for our community, makes our community a better place with these types of events going on and all the people that help support it. Yeah, and these events are all, I think, good events of how our community operates with volunteers and how we would be nothing without all the volunteer hours that take place in our community for Parkinson's, for Salmon Spectacular, for the Fall Fair, for Parkinson's, for, I think, Scott, you're going to sit in for me Sunday for the Terry Fox Run. Again, a whole bunch of volunteers and a whole bunch of people volunteering their time to raise money that helps our community. I'm going to be out volunteering at Cobble Beach for the car show on Sunday. You'll see a lot of, I think there's antique cars. There's 2 shows. Some are in town already that are a club that tour around Ontario. They're here, not here already, they're coming soon. And then you'll see the cobble cars running through town and through the area on Saturday. And then, of course, the show is Sunday. That raises money for our hospital and another hospital in Toronto. I think it was like 10,000 people they're expecting. It's gotten to be huge. I think they're ranked, I know they're ranked in the top 5 in North America now, which is pretty special. So that's my items. John, you'll have number 18, committee that the motion that the committee rises.
I move that the committee of the whole rise and report.
All in favor? That is carried. Number 19. Go ahead.
I move that the action taken in committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputation and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business be and is hereby confirmed by this council. Moved by John Tamming and seconded by Councillor Kepke.
All in favor? That is carried. Do we have any notices of motion being given? I see none. Ms. Bloomfield, can you run through the bylaws?
Through your worship, the bylaws listed for approval on tonight's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to execute a facade and structural improvements agreement with Christopher Waller at 275 8th Street East, a bylaw to execute an agreement with the Minister of Transportation respecting the Connecting Links program contribution. There are 2 bylaws to execute servicing agreements, one for the Gwendon Townhouses at 1832 7th Ave East, and one for the Velati Auto Repair Shop at 1857 23rd Street East, and a bylaw to execute an agreement with BGL Contractors respecting water treatment plant valve, screen, and piping replacement.
Great, thank you. Councillor Tamming.
I move, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that bylaw numbers 2019-152, 2019-153, 2019-154, 2019-155, 2019-156.
All in favor? And that is carried, so that completes our business for the evening. It is 8:29. We can adjourn. Thanks, everybody.